Hello friends, welcome to Finance MCQ. I am CA Pritam Sangwan and today we will discuss about accounting for investment, accounting standard 13, which is an important topic from commerce and accountancy subject of paper 2, which is a technical syllabus of your SEBI exam. Friends, this technical syllabus is of 100 marks in phase 1 and it has 2/3 weightage in phase 2 of your SEBI grade A exam. And friends, you can find entire technical syllabus of SEBI grade A exam chapter wise, topic wise on Finance MCQ website in MCQ question format. You can visit the website and practice entire technical syllabus there. I have put the website link in the description box below. So let's begin. Friends, let's start our discussion by first understanding what does AS-13 accounting for investment covers. So friends, AS-13 deals with accounting for investment and related disclosure requirements regarding current investments and long-term investment. Friends, this current investment is also known as short-term investment. So I hope scope of AS-13 is clear to all of you, that it covers accounting for investment and its related disclosures regarding current investment and long-term investment. So now let's move on to the next point. Now friends, let's discuss items which are outside the scope of AS-13. First one is recognition of interest, dividend and rentals earned on investments. Friends, income earned by way of interest, dividend is excluded from AS-13. Reason being, they are covered in AS-9, that is revenue recognition. And friends, we have already discussed about AS-9, so you all can go and check that video also on accounting standard 9. Then operating or finance lease are also outside the scope of AS-13 because they are covered under AS-19, that is leases. Then investment on retirement benefit plan and life insurance enterprise is also not covered under AS-13. And then friends, mutual funds, venture capital fund and or related asset management companies, bank and public financial institutions are also outside the scope of AS-13. So friends, I hope all these items are also cleared which are not part of accounting standard 13. So now let's move on to the next point. Friends, there are certain terms which are frequently used in AS-13 accounting for investments. Let's discuss those terms one by one. So friend, first one is investment. So friends, what is an investment? It is an asset that enterprise held for earning income, and income by way of a dividend, interest or rentals, or for just capital appreciation purpose. That is, you make an investment, and why you have making investment? Just to make sure your capital will get appreciated. So that will be your investment, and for any other benefits that an investing enterprise desired. But here one point is to remember is that if asset is held as stock in trade, that is inventory, then same will not be considered as investment. So I hope the investment point is clear. Then the second term is fair value. Friends, fair value is amount for which an asset can be exchanged between a knowledgeable buyer and a knowledgeable seller at an arm's length price. That is, if an asset can be exchanged between two knowledgeable buyer and seller at an arm's length price, then that price or that amount will be known as fair value. So I hope fair value is also clear. Then we have third term, market value. So friends, market value is an amount obtainable from sale of an investment in an open market, which is net of expenses, that is on or before disposal. So whatever will be the expenses minus from your sale of investment will be considered as your market value. So I hope these 3 points are clear to all of you. Now let's move on to the next point. Friends, now let's talk about classification of investments. Investments can be classified into current investment and long-term investments. Now what is this current investments? So friends, current investments are easily realizable and intended to be held for not more than 1 year. that is the period of holding should be less than 1 year, then it will be considered as current investment. And what will be the long term investment? Long term investment will be an investment other than current investment is your long term investments. So friends, I hope the classification is very easy to remember. Current investments are the investments which are easily realizable and intended to be held for not more than 1 year, whereas long term investments are other than current investments. So if investment holding period is more than 1 year, then it will be your long term investment. And friends, intention to hold is to be checked at the time of purchase of an investment. So when you are purchasing an investment, that time if your intention is to hold for less than 1 year, then you have to classify it as a current investment, and if your intention is to hold for more than 1 year, then it will be treated as your long term investment. So friend, I hope this classification is also clear to all of you. Now let's move on to the next point. Friends, now let's talk about cost of investments. What are the elements or what are the various costs will be added to your investment cost. So friends, your cost include acquisition charges such as brokerage fees, duties, etc. will be part of your acquisition cost or your cost of investment. And friends, investment acquired by first one fully or partly by issue of shares, that is you acquired certain investment either by issuing fully equity shares or partly by issuing equity shares, then acquisition cost will be fair value of securities issued or asset given up. So what will be the acquisition cost of investment? It will be the fair value of securities that we have issued, that will be considered as your cost of investment or acquisition cost. And then second scenario, in exchange of an asset, that is if you have acquired any investment by exchanging an asset, in that case what will be the acquisition cost? It will be fair value of asset given up or investment acquired, whichever is more. So here in this case, the fair value of whatever the asset that we have given up or the investment that we have taken, the higher amongst them, the two fair value will be considered. So I hope this cost of investment is clear in both these situations, that if it is by issue of shares, then the fair value of securities issued will be by acquisition cost, and in case of exchange of asset, then it will be higher of asset given up or the investments acquired, the fair value higher among these two will be considered as my acquisition cost. So I hope it is clear. Now let's move on to the next point. Now friends, let's talk about carrying amount of an investments, that is at what amount we have to carry the investment in our books of accounts. Friends, current investments are to be carried at lower of cost and fair value. In this, either we can carry investment by category wise, that is by equity shares, preference shares, debentures, etc. by entire category wise we can carry at a lower of cost and fair value, or more prudently carry investment individually at a lower of cost and fair value. So what does it mean? Say suppose if you are having investment in 10 different type of securities, out of that say suppose some are in equity shares, some are in preference shares, and some are in debentures. So we have made couple of investments. So what the standard says, that your current investment should be measured at, carried at lower of cost and fair value. The first line that they mention, that investment is to be carried by category wise, that entire category of equity share is to be carried at lower of cost and fair value. But they say more prudently you can carry the investment individually by lower of cost and fair value. So I hope it is clear that standards say it is more prudent if you carry investment individually at a lower of cost and fair value. Then friends, our long term investments are carried at cost only. Friends, here carrying amount is determined on individual investment basis. Like if you have made 10 investments, then you have to determine carrying amount of each individual investments. In current account we have talked that it can be based on category wise. Here you have to calculate or determine amount individually, of each investment. And friends, if there is a decline in value of investment which is not temporary in nature, then charge such decline to profit and loss account and reverse if value increases. So what does it mean? Say suppose earlier your cost was rupees 10,000, then there is a decline which you feel that is not temporary in nature and decline to 7,000, then the 3,000 you have to charge to the profit and loss account. And if the value increases, say from the 7 it increases to 9, then you have to reverse that 2,000 and you will add that to the cost of investment. So I hope the carrying amount of current investment and long-term investment is clear to all of you. Now let's move on to the next point. Friends, now let's talk about investment property. So what is an investment property? So friends, investment property is investment in land and building which are not intended to occupied for use by or in the operations. That is, we have made certain investment in land and building which we are occupying and we are not using it, and neither we are using it in the operations of the company. So that thing is known as investment property. And friend, such investment property is to be accounted as per accounting standard 10, property, plant and equipment, through using cost model and not under AS-13. And friends, cost of any shares in cooperative society or a company, the holding of which is directly related to holding of a right in investment property, is added to the carrying amount of the investment property. So here what they are saying, if we are having an investment in any shares of cooperative society or a company, and through holding of those shares which is directly related to holding of a right in any investment property, then such cost is to be added to the carrying amount of the investment property when we account for it. So I hope this investment property is clear, that it is not recorded in accounting standard 3, rather than it is accounted in AS-10. So I hope it is clear. Now let's move on to the next point. Friends, now let's discuss treatment regarding disposal of investments. When we sell the investments, how it is to be treated or what treatment is to be given. So friends, on disposal of an investment, the difference between carrying amount and sales amount net of expenses is to be recognized in profit and loss. And friends, if part of an investment is disposed of, that is sold, then carrying amount allotted to that part will be determined by average carrying amount of total holding of investments. So if we have disposed only a part of investments, then what will be the cost of that part of investment? That will be the average carrying amount of total holding that is to be considered, which is allocated to that part only. So I hope this disposal of investment is also clear. Friends, now let's discuss reclassification of investments and how such investment is recorded in the books of accounts when we reclassify the investments. So friends, reclassification of investments can be done by converting long-term investments into short-term investments. That is, we reclassify long-term investments into short-term investments. And how it will be recorded in the books? So here the lower of cost and carrying amount on the date of transfer, it is to be recorded on that amount. Say suppose here, if you have reclassified a certain investments which you feel earlier was long term and you reclassify as short term, then it will be reclassified at lower of cost and carrying amount. Then you reclassify your short term investment to long term investment. And how you will record this reclassification? It will be recorded at lower of cost and fair value on the date of transfer. So here the difference is from long term to short term, the lower of cost and carrying amount will be recorded as your reclassified amount, and in the short term to long term it will be lower of cost and fair value on the date of transfer. So whichever will be the lower amount will be considered as your reclassified investment cost of that particular investment. So I hope this reclassification is also clear. A question may be asked from this. Friends, now let's talk about disclosure to be given in the financials statement regarding AS-13. What are the various disclosures that need to be reported? So first one is accounting policies followed for valuation of investment is to be disclosed in the financials or in your notes. Then amount included in profit and loss account regarding interest, dividend and rental of investment is to be provided. Then profit and loss on disposal of current and long-term investment is also to be mentioned. Then if there is a change in carrying amount of such investment, that is your long-term investment or short-term investment, you have to also disclose that thing in your financials. Then friends, if there is any significant restriction on the right of ownership, realizability of investments or remittance of income and proceeds of disposal of investment, then you have to disclose the same in your financial statements or in your notes to accounts. And you have to disclose aggregate amount of quoted and unquoted investments in your notes to accounts. Say suppose if you are having a couple of investments, some are quoted and some are unquoted investments, then you have to show the aggregate amount of all your quoted investments and your unquoted investments. So friends, I hope this disclosure part is also clear. Friends, today we have talked about investments and its scope. We have also talked about terms used in investments. Then we talk about classification of investments and cost of investments. We have also talked about carrying amount of investments and investment property, which is not considered in AS-13, it is considered in AS-10. And last we discussed about reclassification of investments and disclosure to be given for AS-13. Friends, I tried to cover all the important points from AS-13 which are relevant for your SEBI Grade A exam. Friends, for more practice of this topic in MCQ format, I request you to please visit Finance MCQ website. It has entire SEBI Grade A technical syllabus which is paper 2 of journal stream in MCQ format. It has 2000 plus subject wise, topic wise MCQ questions to practice. We have added explanations for correct answers wherever required. It also has 25 test series for your technical syllabus to practice. So friends, there is lot of study materials to practice on Finance MCQ. Do visit the website for more practice and increase your selection chances. Friends, website link is in the description box below. I will come up with new video. Till then, take care and thank you so much for watching.